All right, all my Law and Order fans, what's going on? I talk about SVU a lot in this, and I've mentioned some of the other shows. I talk about organized crime and the original Law and Order. I've mentioned a little bit of criminal intent. We know that we have a few others like True Crime Menendez Brothers, Los Angeles, UK, so, and Trial by Jury. And so altogether, that's 8 Law and Order shows. They've done 8 of them. Wow. And this one I'm going to talk about Los Angeles. It was one out of 2 that was filmed outside of New York, or actually took place outside of New York. So the cast members. So I think they had a good cast here. Alfred Molina as Ricardo Morales, deputy district attorney turned senior LAPD detective. Let's see, senior detective Rex Winters, played by Skeet Ulrich. Then you have junior detective Thomas T.J. Jaruzelski. I don't even remember how they pronounce that name in there. It's been a while since I've seen that. Rachel Tacotin as Arlene Gonzalez. Rachel Tacotin and Wanda De Jesus played Arlene Gonzalez, LAPD lieutenant. And then you have 4 deputy district attorneys. You have Joe Decker, played by Terrence Howard, Connie Rubirosa, played by Alana de la Garza. You have Regina Hall as Evelyn Price and Megan Boone as Laura Stanton. And then you also have District Attorney Jerry Hardin, played by Peter Coyote. Now, this show is the second Law and Order spinoff to be set outside of New York City, the first being UK, Law and Order UK. As with the rest of the Law and Order franchise, episodes are often loosely based on real crimes that have received media attention, or as the franchise calls it, ripped from the headlines. So this show this show only had 1 season, only 22 episodes. It was a 1 season hit, and I can tell you right now they're not bringing it back because one. So the show ran from September of 2010 to about July of 2011. Now I watched it, and I thought it was all right, but it was nowhere near as exciting and thrilling and as SVU, or even like Criminal Intent, I would say, or even Organized Crime. Now, I'll tell you, there was a few things wrong with this show. Aside from the fact that it didn't have that exciting aspect, the episodes were done out of order. So it has 22 episodes in it. So, for example, I believe it was Rex Winters, played by Skeet. So Rex Winters, he was killed in one episode. Let's say it was like the 10th or 11th episode. But then he's later shown in like the 16th or 17th episode. And this was not like a speculated death. Like we saw it happen. Like the guy was killed. So production was kind of out of order. They didn't air the episodes in the right order. I will say, I think some episodes were kind of interesting. I think it started off okay. But by the time I got to the 4th and 5th episodes, I was like, yeah, they're not bringing this back. Because it's just that aspect. It just wasn't there. That thriller, that intensity. They just didn't have it the same way the other shows did. I would say it's almost similar to the original Law and Order, but I would say even the original was probably better than this. Me personally, I would give this show about a 5 or 6 on a scale of 1 to 10. Now, a lot of my Law and Order fans, you might have differing opinions. Some of you might think of this show as only a 1. Some of you might think it's a 10. Maybe at least one of you watching this thinks it's the best show ever. You might think it's the best out of the franchise. Now, let's see what the reviews on the show had to say. Sorry about that. Among Google users, you had about, wow, this is a little more than I thought, about 75%. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 59%. Internet Movie Database, 67%. That's actually a little bit surprising coming from them. I thought they would have each given it like a 30% or below, just because they're usually so just cruel and vicious towards a lot of shows and movies. But why was Law and Order LA canceled? Comparisons were inevitable, especially since the original was canceled around the time LA debuted. Unfortunately, the spinoff didn't live up to standard, giving viewers storylines that felt superficial and lacked the dramatic gravitas of its predecessors. The reviews Now here's what Internet Movie Database had to say. Let's look at this right here. I've noticed that most reviews here are not kind. They whine about no theme song or opening credits. They complain about bad chemistry and story and say it's just another Hollywood show. They say this is not real Law and Order. I say shame on them. Yes, the opening dialogue is gone and I miss it, but it doesn't ruin the show. Yes, the theme is gone, but I love how they play most recognizable notes of the song in a ghostly manner as the new logo comes into screen. As for the stories, there's only one to judge so far, but I liked it. Yeah, it had the Hollywood to it, but the producers have said not every episode will be Hollywood focused like this week's. As for the actors, they are great. The detectives have great chemistry, and the same is said for the DAs. To sum this up, the show is very well written, acted, and laid out. I hope that the show does not run for many years and doesn't suffer the fate. I hope that this show does run for many years and doesn't suffer the fate of the equally good Law and Order Trial by Jury. Yes, it's never going to replace the mothership that NBC shouldn't have canceled. I cried when they did. But I feel as time goes on, the show, which has started out great, will get better and better. I hope everyone else will give the show a chance. From just one episode, I have to agree with USA Today's assessment that when they said, what you get from LA is a show that's as solid and reliable as a well-built sedan. You know, the kind that keeps running for 20 years. And from the reviews, not a welcome one. I looked through the reviews. I'm currently watching the show on DVD. Some mention the opening dialogue not there on the DVD. It is. Some mention the different music. It's the same music on the DVD. Because the show is based in Los Angeles, the look is glossier as opposed to the grittier SVU and Criminal Intent in the UK version, which was marvelous. Later on, they attempt to make it grittier, which is partially successful. The main problem for me is that I can't relate to the police detectives of this series as I could in the other franchises. I think they mean the other series. New retooled Law and Order LA regains lost stature. Having suffered through the first half of the first season of LA and now watching the reimagined second half of the same season, I'm pleasantly surprised they actually pulled it off. That is, it's becoming more like the original Law and Order and not some sunny disposition on life in La La Land and rampant medical marijuana. This one says, much better, superb television, give it a chance. I would say this, anybody who is a real Law and Order fan, if you love SVU, if you love Criminal Intent, if you love organized crime, if you like the original, if you liked Trial by Jury and Menendez Brothers and some of them, I think it's worth a shot. I mean, I'm not going to suggest don't watch it, but after you've already seen so many episodes of SVU, like even if you watch the first 12 seasons of SVU and then you watch this, it would seem boring in comparison. But overall, I think it's decent for what it is. Maybe it wasn't meant to have that thriller to it, but it still keeps the same as far as its genre. It's still drama, it's still suspense, it's still mystery. We have to investigate and take to court. We arrest the suspects. And it's your typical, the cops are the good guys, the suspects and criminals usually are the bad guys, and then like the courts and the jury could go either way. So, I mean, I would say it's kind of interesting. I actually I watched it, the whole thing for the first time not too long ago, actually. I started watching it years ago, then I fell off. But to those of you that want to watch it, it is available to watch on Amazon Prime for free. And to those of you that want to keep it in case they lose it or they decide to take it off for whatever reason, it's available to buy on YouTube. You can buy it on Amazon as well. I haven't checked that part, but I did see that you could watch it on there. So I think the show was all right for what it was. So go ahead and check that out and continue to watch the other shows.